Toya. This is Master Plo Koon, and you're listening to the 104th Battalion, the Wolf Pack podcast. May the Force be with you.
Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the Wolfpack Podcast. Today we are interviewing an amazing voice actor and all-around awesome guy, James Arnold Taylor. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing? It's wonderful to be on with the Wolfpack. What a great name.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni would be very proud.
Oh yeah, huge Clone Wars reference in the podcast.
Well, good. So, yes, it's always a fun time to talk about Obi Wan, one of my favorite characters in the world of fiction and also just in the general populace. It's one of those characters that you never could have dreamed as a kid that you'd get to play, and to get to be him and associated with him for so long has been a great honor for me. So it's great to be on with you.
That's really cool. Well, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. To kind of start off with some questions, my first one would be, what do you think Obi-Wan's greatest challenge was?
His greatest challenge? I think, yeah, he did. In season 4, his greatest challenge was not getting beat up. Man, I think that probably throughout all of it, you'd have to look, if you look at the arc of just the Clone Wars, his greatest challenge was feeling as though he was teaching Anakin enough, giving enough of his time and energy to him while dealing with this, incredibly powerful war that's going on and this deception that's going on, and trying to keep his head above water within the Force. I think that's when you look at this character, and Dave jokes around a lot about it, Dave Filoni, about how Obi-Wan's kind of to blame for everything. But, because if you look at the arc of all of the Star Wars films, his character did really have such a strong hand in all of those things. But it's a lot of pressure being Obi Wan Kenobi, man. It's like, it's not easy. So I think that really making sure that he lived up to Qui-Gon's expectations. I think he held all of that very, very seriously. I think that was the goal of his life, was to do that. And so, I think he did well within the Clone Wars. Obviously, after that, in Revenge of the Sith, things go a little sour. Spoiler alert. But other than that, I think that was his greatest challenge outside of, his love for Satine, which I think was really an awesome thing that we got to explore with the Clone Wars. So, keeping that area of his life at bay and not giving into that as well, and also giving into the anger of it with Darth Maul and such. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Sure.
My question is, in the Clone Wars, it seems that Darth Maul has escaped yet again. And we're not 100% sure if he's going to be in this upcoming Ventress novel, but if he's not, would you look forward to possibly in Rebels seeing Ben Kenobi versus Maul?
Well, I, of course, would never give in to a fight or say no to a fight with Darth Maul. But, yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? I don't think it would more than likely happen just because of where Obi-Wan is right now. But one never knows. Yeah, it's one of those things where, originally I think there was probably a plan to address all of that, and then we didn't get to live out those last 2 seasons of the Clone Wars that we thought we were going to. So some of those things do slip into the world of Rebels, and we'll see how Dave Filoni and all the folks there handle all that. So I'm curious to see how it'll come about. And I would be very sad if someone besides Obi Wan Kenobi was the one that put Darth Maul down for good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I hope we do see that, because I think the ultimate, person to fight Maul would be Obi-Wan, and have it finish that way. So hopefully we do see that in Rebels. That'd be great.
Yeah. Then again, maybe episode 7, Darth Maul is going to come back and, have a beard and all of that.
Never know this, right?
The old guy, yeah.
Then Luke's the one that takes him out. Well, James, my friend, it's a pleasure to have you on here. And my question is, in the Clone Wars story reel that was recently released online, and the episode in particular called in A Search of the Crystal, Anakin and Obi-Wan discuss about Anakin's departure from the Jedi Order, right?
Right.
And there's a moment where Obi-Wan tells Anakin that he shouldn't feel responsible for what she decides to do. And Anakin's response to him is, "How would you feel if I turned into a major disappointment?" And of course, Obi-Wan replies, "It's not the same." And Anakin says it is. He also says, "How well would you sleep if I failed you?" Obi-Wan says, "Not very well, I imagine. Luckily, that isn't true and never will be."
Yeah.
If Obi-Wan knew firsthand that Anakin was going to fall, or was going to fail him, what do you think he would do about it?
Well, I would imagine the same thing that he did in Revenge of the Sith. Again, this character is such a stable character. He doesn't, I don't think, sway from his beliefs ever. You know, we see inklings of anger rising up and love throughout the whole Satine arcs with Darth Maul and such. But I think that his reaction is timeless, the way that he reacted in Revenge of the Sith. And I think all of it is shock. You know, it is always going to be shock and amazement that the chosen one would fall away, and also some responsibility. I think that, you know, certainly, if your listeners have looked at the book Kenobi at all, which is just a fantastic book and really goes through the meditations of Obi Wan Kenobi trying to connect with Qui-Gon, and, you know, relives those moments in his brain over and over again of, oh, I wish I could have done this better or that better or this differently. Either way, I think he still would be hit with those thoughts and impressions. And I don't think it would really change much as to the timing of it. But I did feel, you know, it was fun when we did those scenes. Matt and I were in the studio together and we tracked all that together. And it was just the two of us in the room at the time. And those were really powerful moments. I got to talk about that on a new show called The Comm Link with my buddy David Collins. And I got a little choked up talking about it because it really is just these wonderful moments that we had always wanted to have on the show, and we finally got to have them, and we didn't know that it was the last time we'd be recording together. So, you know, how would James react if he heard Matt say that instead of Obi-Wan? No, it's it is one of those things where you just go, gosh, it's a powerful scene, it's a wonderful moment, and it's also a little tip of the hat to what is to come. It's a bit foreboding, but yeah, I think he'd react the same way.
Okay.
Long way around to say this one thing. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, Chris. Sure.
How long does it typically take you to get a character voice down? For example, like Obi-Wan. How long did it take you to really develop that character and make it your own?
Well, you know, two different things there. That's a great question, because there's a difference between kind of falling into the pocket vocally of what you're going to do and knowing where to go and what your range is within a voice, and then totally different to have that aspect of, okay, now I'm making it my own. I'm bringing this character into me, and vice versa. Obi-Wan came very easily to me because I had done a lot of Ewan McGregor's doubling and such before. And he and I have very similar vocal qualities. So if I go into the Ewan McGregor American voice, it's all right about here. And so his voice is just pretty much just in this place. So then, of course, you put in the Alec Guinness accent and you make it younger and you get this, you know, Obi-Wan. And so, but not until Clone Wars really, probably season 2 was when I really kind of relaxed and stopped worrying so much about matching Ewan and let the character become my own thing. And that's where you do hear a shift. I mean, the voice is no longer really a Ewan McGregor match. If you watch Clone Wars for any length of time, it's my own interpretation of the character. And I was so grateful to be able to do that. George Lucas was kind enough to give all of us that freedom to do that. I've said that many times before. And Dave Filoni as well. I think Dave had a different vision for Obi-Wan than George did, even for the prequels, because he would, generally speaking, when I would get a script, I would read it and I would put it into that Ewan McGregor part right there in my voice, and he'd go, no, it's, you know, bring it down a little more serious, bring it a little more proper, you know. And so he helped shift it into, you know, so is more of this place right here. It's very subtle, but it's a little deeper. It's a little more controlled, a little more proper, maybe. So there is that whole change that happens, and that took place throughout, I mean, really, literally throughout the whole 10 years we recorded. It was always evolving and changing. But after season 1 is when I really kind of went, okay, here's the development of this character. Here's where it's at. Here's where I'm going with it. So, yeah.
I love Obi-Wan's voice in Clone Wars. It is awesome. You do a tremendous job.
Thank you so much.
It's
very
incredible.
kind. Yeah, it's awesome.
Speaking of how you did the voice for Obi-Wan, I was kind of curious when you did the voice of Obi-Wan in Rebels. Did you record those lines with any other actors in person, or was it done all separate?
It was done all separately. In fact, I was quite stealth. I don't think the rest of the cast really even knew, because they work it the same way we did on Clone Wars, where they get the scripts not in advance, as far as I know. So I think I got mine a day in advance, and I got to look at it. And that was a big deal to get it that far in advance, quite frankly. And then getting into the studio, I was all alone. It was myself and Dave Filoni and Greg Weisman and the engineer, Cameron, who was our engineer on Clone Wars for all those years as well, and then some of the producers. But it was very top secret. And so it's great and weird to think that it's actually the cat is out of the bag there, and now I can talk about it. But yeah, I was all alone in the studio, and they did give me direction to be more Ewan McGregor in that than what I had done in the Clone Wars. So there is if you listen to it, there is more nods to Ewan's Obi-Wan than to my own. So it's a little different.
That's awesome. My next question is also relating to Obi-Wan and Rebels. Now that Dave confirmed at the San Diego Comic-Con panel that we are getting more Obi-Wan and Rebels, are you like super excited that Obi-Wan's back on screen so fast?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I love the character. I really do wish we could have gotten all 8 seasons of the Clone Wars. I would love to see someone, a place like Netflix, see how important it is to the fans, and perhaps try to do some movies or something out of it. I think that would be awesome too. But anytime I can go into the studio to voice Obi Wan Kenobi is always a pleasure to me. So I certainly hope that there's more for him in Rebels, and that we see more of him, because I think that there's still a very compelling story to tell there. I would love it if he got to narrate some more things. I don't know if you all were at Celebration 6, the last one, and they played on the digital stage with David Collins. I didn't get to see it. In fact, that kills me. I still have not seen it yet, but they did the Younglings arc where they took like 4 of those stories, put them together. And Obi-Wan was actually the narrator of that. And it was really cool that they did that. And I always was hoping that they would have done, a spin-off like that. I thought it would have been great, and have Obi-Wan be the narrator telling the story there while he sits on Tatooine, wasting away and turning into Alec Guinness.
I actually did not know about that. That is very
No, we didn't. The thing was with that, they wouldn't allow the general public going without a child.
Oh, I see.
So most of us couldn't even see it unless we had a kid with us, or something like that.
How funny. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, and I didn't get to see it either because I was busy on my stage. So I have yet to see it. I wish they would release that. They should release it as a DVD or something. I'm sure we'd all love to see it.
Yeah, I was always hoping that they'd release, like the Darth Maul arc, or maybe the Ahsoka arc that we got in season 5 is just a full-on, movie.
Like what they did with Maul for the season 4 finale, the last 4 arcs, like make it all into one film.
The Night Sisters and Maul, yeah, they did that, and it was great. We screened that at the Egyptian Theater when it first came out, and to see all of that strung together seamlessly as one motion picture, like a 90-minute movie. It was fantastic. So I wish they would do that for more of them too. And again, perhaps that's a thing. If fans cry out hard enough, maybe there will be. I have absolutely no idea. That's just my guess, is that perhaps they're never going to be afraid to repackage and sell more DVDs. So maybe they'll do that.
Well, and I always say that every Clone Wars guest we have on, I've always said that I think that there's always an outlet to get the other seasons of Clone Wars out. I mean, it's not obviously going to happen at the moment because of Rebels, but I think definitely at some point down the line, in the coming years, it'll come back because there's such a demand for it.
Yeah.
You know, where there's a demand, you know, you can always find a way to get those stories out. So
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome if they did. I think that there is definitely the people are ready for it still. They still love it. It was Rebels is its own thing, and Clone Wars was its own thing, and each episode of the movies are their own thing, and they're all part of the universe that we love. And you know, it was just like comfort food for all of us. So yeah, absolutely, I agree.
You know, for me, I think what was really special was the fact that in Spark of Rebellion, we get to see the actual transmission that Obi-Wan sent out to the surviving Jedi, which we never got to see in Revenge of the Sith. And
Right.
what really made it special, of course, was the entire message. But for me, what really kind of what I really took to heart, and I kind of felt like this was not coming from Obi-Wan, but it came from you, James, because you like to inspire a lot of us and give us a lot of positive messages. So
Hmm.
so when we see the entire message that Obi-Wan sends out, there's a part that he says, "Trust in the Force. We
Mhm.
will we will each be challenged, our trust, our faith, our friendships, but we must persevere, and in time a new hope will emerge."
Yeah.
I felt like that's an actual life lesson that we get tested in our daily lives. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that, reading that. It's true. You know, it's one of those things we recorded it so many times.
Mm.
I was in the booth for probably no more than 20 minutes, but
Mhm.
we recorded and they rewrote it and they changed it, they edited it, you know, and all of that part, every time I read it, you know, I don't know how many takes we did, but
Mhm.
I'm going to guess maybe 10
Oh,
takes. Um, each time I still got the goosebumps, you know, so
yeah.
it's a good sign when you get that and you see on the other side of the glass people getting a little choked up because it's
Yeah.
just one of those pivotal moments in Star Wars, even, you
Mhm.
know, not just in Rebels or Clone Wars, but in Star Wars. And again, as you say, we didn't see that in Sith. So it was really quite an honor for me to get to read those lines. And I think they are important. I think that it really sums up George Lucas's message too, which I thought was a nice nod to, you know, the love of filmmaking that he has and why he originally created all of this stuff. So I think that's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, throughout your career, you've done many great characters, and you put a lot of work into them. What character has probably put the most strain on your voice?
um, you know, there's oh gosh, let's see. There's a lot of little tricks I do to try and keep my voice in good shape and keep it from having that happen. But every once in a while, there will be something. And I did a Spider-Man video game years ago, at least 11 years ago, where I had Electro. And, you know, Electro is, of course, all electricity and all attitude. And he was yelling at Spider-Man from the city streets as they battled. And
Mhm.
by the end of that session, I had no voice left. I was completely shot. And so that one was probably the most straining one there. I also did a show called Drawn Together, which was a very adult cartoon. I don't recommend it for any younglings, but uh, and that I did a couple of voices in that where I really had to put some strain on my voice for them, but and I kind of lost that. Some of the ones that will do it are like the bubble voices. Where you do the kind of, you know, little bubble in your voice, and that will put a strain on your voice. Johnny Test can be very straining, you know, because you do a recording session of Johnny Test, and I'm talking like this for like 4 hours. So, you know, if you talk like this for 4 hours, that's one thing. But if you shout like this for 4 hours, that's a whole other thing. And it just, you know, by the end, my neck is tired, my shoulders are tired, I'm exhausted. So, you know, each one has its own challenges, and all of them are straining. But the one, you know, where I lost my voice was Electro. But I did there's a Marvel Universe game that's out that is always kind of going. It's online, so you can interact with it constantly. And I'm Magneto in that one, and the Silver Surfer. And last time I did the Magneto stuff, that was pretty straining, where I had to do all the dying sound effects as Magneto. So that was which was similar to Plo Koon. It's kind of a similar voice. It's one of these big British voices. So when you're dying like a Brit like that, Magneto, it tended to wear my voice out a little. But yeah, so, you just have to pace yourself, and you put all those sessions at the end of the week. And so if you do lose your voice, you manage to recover it over the weekend. And so, yeah, but it's all still fun.
Very cool. Well, final questions now, and we'll go ahead and start with Logan then.
All right. Well, this one I was kind of curious because of last year's Star Wars weekends, or this year's Star Wars weekends. I mean,
Sure.
Was this your last time hosting Star Wars weekends, or are there plans for you to return next year or in the future?
Oh boy, yeah. Wouldn't we all like to know the answer to that? I love hosting Star Wars weekends. I'm always honored when Disney asks me to do it. I've been fortunate enough to really kind of make it my own when I come in and do it. They've given me a lot of freedom, especially these last 2 years. This last year especially, though, was where I wrote and produced pretty much most of my material. And so I enjoy doing that. They see me as a good partner. So as Obi Wan would say, one never knows, but we'll keep saying a little prayer there to the Disney folks that they might consider James again, and hopefully if fans like me there, they'll write them some emails or what have you, and say please keep James Arnold Taylor back. But yeah, I would hope, if I did it again, it would be my 5th year, so that would be a nice one. But of course, you've got episode 7 coming out. You got a lot going on, and I will be the month before that. I'll be hosting Celebration, so it would be a natural fit if I host. But you never know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
We're hopeful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my question is, what has been your favorite character to play on Clone Wars? Has it been, well, I guess, what's the funnest
outside of Obi Wan?
Yeah, Racco Hardeen, Plo Koon, or anybody?
Oh man. Well, Plo Koon is near and dear to my heart. It's almost like I'd have to say outside of Obi Wan and Plo, because they're both such regulars and clearly favorites of mine. I really enjoyed doing the Racco Hardeen episodes. Those were great because I got the script that day. I had no idea what I was in for, and I looked, and it was just pages of dialogue as Obi-Wan in a different voice. And you're like, what? And the first thing you do, you get through the first 2 or 3 pages, and you see that Obi-Wan dies, and you're like, wait a second. I'm sorry. What's this? Are those clone rumors true about Obi-Wan Kenobi? So I loved doing that. That was a fun one. I got to do a couple other little voices in that same episode. I think it would probably be between him and Osi Sobek. Osi Sobek was just a fun character because I'm sure you guys have heard me say before, it was a combination of Al Pacino and Christopher Walken. Yeah. And you get this kind of Osi Sobek, And the cool thing about that was I got to do Obi-Wan, Master Plo Koon, and Osi talking together to each other and, just going back and forth between all the voices. So those were fun episodes to do. But yeah, I had lots of fun little characters that I got to do. And, clearly you guys are so nice to always come and see my show and such at Star Wars Weekends. You've seen the little montage of all the various voices and people I do in the show. I don't know. I try to always say when people ask me who's my favorite character to voice in general as a voice actor, I say whoever I'm voicing at the time. So, because I'm really just try to live in the moment and be grateful for each moment that I have to be opening my mouth and speaking and doing what I dreamed of doing since I was a kid. So, each one has a near and dear place in my heart. But OC and Reiko, I think, were pretty darn cool characters to get to do.
Oh, very cool. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Nabil?
If there's anything that you had the opportunity to explore in Obi-Wan's lifetime, whether as a young man or a middle-aged man or an adult man, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I think we're all curious about Obi Wan Kenobi's life before all the films, aren't we? I mean, that's the one that would really be awesome. Those times with Satine and such as well.
Yeah.
Those are neat thoughts to explore, but also just what is his history? How did he come to be with Qui-Gon and all of that? I think that there's so much to explore there. I know that Ewan McGregor has also expressed interest in a spin-off or something, and so a standalone story, I should say. But I would love to know what his childhood was and such, and I think that's where it would really be appropriate to go back and explore Jedi's childhood more so than it was with Anakin. But yeah, those would certainly be interesting. I think that, before that, I might have a couple years ago, I might have said the time on Tatooine, but I really do think that the book Kenobi really covered a really good portion of that and covered the kind of emotions that he's going through there. So that's an interesting story within itself. But I think the one part that is really untouched, and I think, as far as I know, purposefully from George Lucas, just like Yoda, we don't know what is Yoda, where does he come from, what's his story. We don't know those stories, and we probably never will unless Disney decides we need to see those movies, which I kind of hope they don't, because as much as I'd like to know them, and I think they'd be fascinating, Obi Wan I think is an easier story to tell than Yoda, but and it would be really cool. But at the same time, anything that you do beforehand is going to flavor what we now know. I mean, if you look at the prequels, even it does flavor Alec Guinness. I think, thanks to Ewan McGregor and his brilliant portrayal, it does it the right way. But so, like, when I watch 4, 5, and 6 now, especially episode 4, A New Hope, when Luke is sitting there asking about his father, or even just before that when he gets knocked out and he comes to, and Ben is there, there's all those little looks that Alec Guinness gives and all that stuff that he does, and you're like, oh man, it goes so much deeper now that we know the prequels. So it's really neat how it ties together. So if they could accomplish the same thing with the story about him when he was younger, I think that would really be fascinating and fun. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. My last question, it's a little off the topic of Star Wars, and I believe this, just a quick question before I ask this. You've done the voice of Fred Flintstone, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you kind of answered it a little bit when you said you did Drawn Together. All right. It was rumored that Seth MacFarlane is or was working on a Flintstones reboot. Would you be interested in playing Fred if that did come up? Remember, Seth uses a lot of shock and crude humor. Would that turn you off as a voice actor, or would it just be like another job?
No, it's a great question. That was going to happen, and then from what I understand, they did not accept his version of it. So there's going to be a new version of the Flintstones that comes out, I think, from the WWE, which is really weird.
Wow.
And I know that whenever Seth does it, he uses the voice actor that was the voice of Barney with me whenever we did our Fruity Pebbles commercials and such, Jeff Bergman. And Jeff does a phenomenal Fred Flintstone as well. And so he's the one that you hear on any of the Family Guy or Seth MacFarlane cartoons. And he does them great. It's not that I would be opposed to working with him or being on a Flintstones at all. I love the character of Fred Flintstone. I grew up watching him, and it was such a great honor to get to voice him for about 10 or 11 years that I got to. But Drawn Together was one of those things where I got the job before I knew what the job was. And I knew the creators of the show, and they were really great guys. And I knew that they were going for very biting commentary, and they were equal opportunity offenders. And in that, I respected it. And I thought, okay, well, they're not attacking any one thing. They're attacking everybody. And so, okay. But and in fact, they loved writing crude lines and to make me read and watch me squirm as I read them, because it's just not in my nature. I don't, I don't cuss regularly. I don't do those things. I generally, I stay away from video games that have violence or language in them, because I just, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I like to do things that she would want to watch or get to watch. And also just, I'm a Christian, and it's part of my kind of just built into me that I just don't gravitate towards that. But sometimes you have to also, if the humor is right, or if the writing is good, you go, okay, this is something I want to be a part of. So you never know, but yeah, that version I don't think will ever see the light of day. It's already been kind of canned, so one never knows. That's a long answer. I apologize for the long answer, but it's interesting thought to explore. Yeah.
Okay, well, James, thank you so much for coming on. I just have a quick question. After we end the recording, so thank you so much for coming on, and we definitely
Thank you so
hope to
much.
talk with you again soon.
Well, yes, the force is strong here with the wolf pack. I feel as though Master Plo Koon should be the one that says that, though.
That's right. Koto Ya, the force is very strong with the wolf pack, indeed.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, guys. Great.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Wolfpack Podcast. You can follow us on all social media outlets and visit our new website, www.thewolfpackpodcast.com. Sponsored by Dorkside Toys, your online stop for the newest Star Wars collectible releases and pre-orders. Be sure to visit www.dorksidetoys.com and be sure to click the link on our homepage. All rights belong to Disney and Lucasfilm or their respective copyright holders. This is a fan podcast only meant for entertainment and information purposes. Head on over to StarWars.com for any official news, and be sure to subscribe to our channel, and the Force will be with you always.